Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities and Miniatures, and it's that time for another Obscurity in Literature, and this is a fairly recent one, at least at the time of this filming, and that is The Art of Dracula of Transylvania, which is a conceptual design book from an illustrated novel by Ricardo Delgado. Now, maybe that name doesn't ring a bell to you necessarily, but I believe when we get into a little bit about what he's been up to, he is a very talented artist who actually has done a lot of work storyboarding and visual work for a lot of major film studios. But right here, this is where I'm familiar with him. He did a really great comic called The Age of Reptiles. And you can see this book has been well loved in this household. I'm looking at prices on Amazon prior to this, and they're like wanting hundreds and hundreds of dollars. This book, I know he actually won an Eisner Award for this, and I think this is like his first major and one of very few comic works published. But this book was really cool because it is entirely silent, and it is nothing but dinosaurs. So naturally, my budding paleontologist of a child, growing up, absolutely adored this, would stare at it for days and hours on end. And I mean, there's just a lot of interesting, and you could tell the guy's got that storyboarding background because just the pacing of the visuals. I mean, in that regard, this book probably deserves its own video entirely devoted to it, but we're not doing that today. We're going to actually talk about the Dracula book, and I guess if anybody really wants to see more of this is just a cool book. It has all three of the miniseries he did, and then a bunch of other stuff in the back. And it's just a gorgeous book. And really, to me, it always felt like something that would have been published in France in a much larger deluxe style. But unfortunately, as far as I know, at least here in the US, this is the only version. I would love to see this book published again in a much larger format. I think that would be really cool. All kinds of funky concept art. And this is what really sold me, was the fact that you have a lot of that early design work in this book. And so going into the publication of this Dracula book from Clover Press, I was going on the impression of this. This is a book, like I said, you can tell it's been worn and read. Look at the binding. It's been really well loved. And this is one of those books that it's going to be like passed down until it's just in tatters. My kid would read books until they literally fell apart. So, the style is definitely still there. It's still very much Delgado's thing. But I feel a major, major Mignola vibe. And right off the bat, you got a Mignola quote right out the get-go, which isn't surprising. I mean, you know, they're operating in similar fields. And much like the Age of Reptiles book we just looked at, there's some background knowledge. Now, here's one of the cool things about this book, is that we have the whole philosophy and ideas behind everything. I think that's really cool. Some of these, I wish we had more of the background art for, you know, those initial rough sketches, rather than just the blow up and the detailed up version of it. Because there's a lot of that. So we've got, like, I mean, again, very Mignola-esque, but if you enjoy that style, and especially if you're into that apocrypha, if that's the word I'm thinking of, you know, that kind of apocalyptic stuff, there's a lot to enjoy here. Planet Apocalypse, actually, from Peterson Games, I really enjoyed that, and it had a very similar aesthetic in terms of, you know, just channeling that design of these creatures, which I really enjoy. And we're not going to get into the whole theatrics of where that company is at the moment, or the fact that we'll never get the follow-up expansions, most likely, but that's a whole different story. So again, you get all kinds of fun little monsters, along with some explanations on where they came from, what the inspiration was for them. I enjoyed all that. I truly did. The use of color is quite interesting as well. There's a few sections of the book where I feel like it was kind of a bit of a wasted opportunity, where we kind of have, like, when we get into the castle itself, I feel like we dwell too much on certain aspects of it. Maybe to me it gets a bit samey. Like we just saw a blow up of this. To me, this is like, it looks cool, it's a nice spread, but I would have loved to have seen more of his actual background artwork behind everything. And so I guess that's my like main knock on this book. I haven't had a chance to read the novel that all this was designed for yet. But the fact that purists were poo-pooing it online makes me think, well, it could be interesting then. Again, some of these monster designs are so, like, they feel like they'd be at home in a Mignola book. And they're weird. They're really weird, and I love it. The weird halo aura things going on behind them there. We're just skipping and jumping around. Obviously, there's plenty of fun stuff to be had. A minor demon looks like that's a bit Slenderman-ish, but that's okay. Everybody has these kind of crazy auras. Like I said, there's some really interesting stuff in here. And I've barely scratched the surface, because obviously with a new book like this, if this is something you would find yourself interested in, we always want you to go take a look yourselves. The man and the artist. And now check out, I mean, we're look what he's worked on. I mean, he's got a bit of a pedigree when it comes to movies that he has been involved in. So, what I thought was a kind of a cool touch as well is we get into the inspiration behind a lot of this vampire movies. Good old Tomb of Dracula. We have books as well. King's Night Shift obviously in there. The sounds that created the story. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I am one of those people that enjoyed always looking through playlists of artists. Maybe someday I'll put a playlist of stuff that I listen to while I work on some of these models. You guys would be kind of surprised. I mean, I have very eclectic taste in music as it is, but I for as pedestrian as I try to look in my normal life, so to speak, my tastes in music run into the extreme and the obscure. So we'll have to share that another day. But like I said, this just came out. So it should be readily available. We'll have a link to Clover Press's website, so if you guys want to track down any of that stuff yourself, they have put out quite a few other books like this in a similar style. The Age of Reptiles stuff, good luck hunting down those overpriced scalper versions. Don't do it. You could probably find, and I know you can find, a bunch of the back issues floating around in, dollar bins and stuff, just because it's been a while. I know my brother picked up quite a few. We have a few copies even signed by Delgado, and I want to say one year at the Comic-Con he actually sketched some stuff for us in one. Where those books are, I have no idea. I truly don't. I think they're with my Evan Dorkin stuff that I can't seem to track down, and it's like things are like Johnny the Homicidal Maniac that I had signed by Jonan Vasquez before Invader Zim and all that even came out. I mean, we're talking old school stuff. Slave labor graphic stuff. I mean, back in the day. Anyway, I'm rambling at this point. So the fact that I can't get my tense usage in a sentence done correctly says to me it's probably time to wrap this up and go get some coffee because it's getting late. So with that said then, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we will see you back here soon. Bye-bye.